Welcome back to another episode of Rob Sports Center. As you can see by the title and by the thumbnail, today I'm going to be breaking down some film on Ruston High's four-star safety, Jayden Anding. So this is from his sophomore year. We're going to be going through and just kind of breaking down some film on that. So we're going to get straight into it, man. The very first play, man, you see that they have him in a single high. So he's kind of what you would consider a traditional free safety, meaning that you don't really see him playing up in the box more times than not. He's always going to be deep, whether it's a two high or whether it's a single high look. I know last year they ran a lot more single high. This year it seems like they kind of run a little bit more double high. But, you know, the role of a single high safety, obviously, in cover one is to just stay over the top, over on the deepest route, obviously. And, you know, a lot of times what can hurt you when you're in single high is those seam routes out of the slot. So right here, he just does a good job at kind of just mirroring the quarterback's eyes, reading the quarterback's eyes. The pass rush was pretty, effective, being able to get to him and making him have to kind of get rid of the ball much quicker than what he would have wanted to. And Jayden just does a good job at being able to track that ball in the air, being able to come up with the interception. Like I said, the whole goal of cover one is to just read the quarterback's eyes, and that's what he does right here. So even with the quarterback overthrowing it, he still was able to put himself in position to turn from a defender into the offensive player to be able to go up and high point the ball and get the interception and be able to try to eat up some yards, get some good hidden yards off the return, put his offense in a good field position in terms of being able to put some points up on the board. So this just was a nice rep right on his part. So this right here has to be like my favorite play from him from last season, man. So this was a playoff game against Ham, and you see that they got Philip Wright. I think it's Philip Wright the second. He's currently at LSU as well. But you obviously knowing Ham, you know that especially last year, their whole objective was to try to kind of just do like little dink and dunk passes to be able to get the balls to their playmakers in space. Guys like Philip Wright, guys like Jabari Mack. So they did a good job at. So Ruston just does a good job at kind of understanding exactly what it is that the offense wants to do. And I'm pretty sure preparation showed you that out of this formation, out of this down and distance, this is what they like to run. So, you know, you kind of just see the instincts come in because it's like as soon as he saw it, he just reacted to it. So you see that it looks like they're in a two high, might have been possibly a cover two man. And he just does a good job at just reading that and just driving downhill and just delivering a rocket of a blow to Philip Wright, man. Like I say, I probably didn't watch this clip, man, I don't know how many times, probably over 20 sometimes, man. Like this was just a phenomenal play. Like you always hear me say, like, I love a physical style of football, right? And I think that especially as a safety, you need to be able to bring that pop. So you need to be effective in pass coverage, but then you also need to be able to bring that pop because you want to have that label of, oh, we don't want to go across the middle, or we don't want to do nothing short, or put ourselves in position to really be hit by this guy. And right here, he just showcases that, just being able to, read this and come downhill. And keep in mind, he's driving downhill from the safety position too. Like, let's just keep in mind on that. He's coming downhill from the safety position to be able to make a play, make a tackle in the backfield on Philip Wright, right? He just does a good job at, sticking to the fundamentals, driving downhill, keeping his shoulder square, not leading with his head, leading with his shoulder, and just wrapping him up and just driving him to the ground right here. So like I say, man, this is probably by far one of my most favorite plays that he made from last year. And also too, man, this is another thing too, when it comes down to tackling, a lot of the times I think that a lot of people kind of get the misconception, or they allow the ball carrier to attack them opposed to attacking the ball carrier. So the quicker that you realize exactly what the offense is doing, you react to it. So you see him already driving downhill before they even threw the ball to him. So what that does is it puts him in a position to not give Philip Wright opportunities to be able to make a move and make him miss in space. He just does a good job at being able to close the distance and being able to come downhill and deliver a lethal blow in the backfield. So right here, it looks like they're in cover zero, meaning that there's no over-the-top help, because normally he is the over-the-top help. So you have him matched up with number 4, who's coming out the slot. And number 4 kind of just runs, it looks like a little skinny post route where he just sails a hard outside fake to try to get him to open up his hips and then bounce that thing back inside. So right here, he does a good job at being able to speed turn. But the only thing that I would say that he probably could have done a little difference on this route, obviously, is by you playing off. You're playing off man, so you don't have to really worry about the threat of him running past you, just kind of looking at the distance, even whenever he kind of sails that little outside fake. So opposed to, trying to maintain that square stance and keeping his shoulder square, keeping him in a better position to be able to defend it, whenever the receiver sails that outside fake, as if he's finna go outside, he gets him to open his hips up. Now, granted, if you're a safety or a DB that has very good hips and are able to flip your hips and stay in position, then you can do it. It's not detrimental that you do open up your hips a little prematurely. And if you can speed turn and kind of try to stay on top of it, it's not bad that you open your hips up a little prematurely. But I just think that if the pressure hadn't got to the quarterback and the quarterback had to get rid of that ball a little bit quicker than he may have wanted to, man, that probably could have ended up being a big explosive play downfield. So that would be the only thing that I critique. Obviously he ended up coming up with the interception, but like I said, man, once he gave him that hard outside fake right there, he kind of had him in bad positioning. And I mean, it just didn't look like it was going to turn out to be good, but the pressure was able to get up front to be able to get to the quarterback. So he had to get rid of it much quicker than he would have wanted to. So he comes up with an interception right here again. And like I said, man, that's one of the things I would say too, that he's very good at, that he has, is ball skills. And, you know, kind of looking at his frame, I kind of assumed that he might have played receiver a little early on, just looking at his frame and then just seeing his ball skills, man. That's one of the things that I will say that stands out to me, because he was able to, after the speed turn, get his head around almost similar to if he was a receiver running a route and being able to secure this interception. So right here, this is another play from the Longview game. So he ended up having 2 interceptions in that game. They're in cover 1 once again, meaning that he's the single safety, and his job is to kind of just stay deep over everything. And he just does a good job at that. Once again, man, the whole objective in cover 1, especially as the single high safety, is to just read the quarterback's eyes. You want to try to read the quarterback's eyes. More times than not, the quarterback is probably going to only go to one side of the field. Then depending on the formation, the options may be limited. But more times than not, especially in high school, the quarterback is only going to look to one side of the field. So if you follow the quarterback's eyes more times than not, you're going to find yourself in position to be able to make a play on the ball. And that's exactly what he does right here. Now, the pressure up front was something that was giving them fits this whole game, and which led to a lot of these throws that was thrown much quicker than he may have wanted to throw it. But I'm just looking at the fundamentals and the things that he's doing in particular to put himself in position. So even you see that once he realizes, when they run a play action and he realizes that it's a pass play, he doesn't aggressively come downhill and take himself out of position. He kind of just plays it out, gets his shoulder back square, just trying to read the quarterback. And then obviously the quarterback kind of overshot the ball because of the pressure. He just does a good job at, once again, man, turning from a defender into a receiver to be able to go up, high point that ball, attack the ball at its highest point, and come up with that interception. Like I said, man, that's one of the things that stands out to me most definitely is his ball skills. So right here, it looks like the offense is running the RPO. And the reason why I say that is because if you look at the offensive line, and this is also something that, you know, for younger safeties who may be watching this video, this is something that you can look at to kind of identify exactly what it is an offense is trying to do. So if you look at the offensive line here, if by it being a pass play, typically if it was an actual designed pass play, then the offensive line would drop back to try to protect the quarterback, right? You notice that the offensive line is blocking forward, pushing forward as if it was a run. So more times than not, that can be an indicator that it's a run pass option. So the quarterback has the option to be able to hand it off to the running back, or keep the ball himself, or be able to throw the ball on little quick routes, whether that be slants or whether that be bubble screens. So right here, he just does a good job at just reading it, and seeing that that's what they were running, was that slant out of the slot. And he just drives downhill, and once again, man, just delivers one of those big hits. Boom, flatlines him. And like I say, man, that's what you want to be able to put on tape as a safety. Whenever those opportunities present itself to where you can tattoo a guy, you want to make sure you do that, because that's what's going to drive fear into a lot of receivers and kind of have them a little hesitant to want to come across that middle. And once again, man, he just does a good job in terms of the fundamentals of tackling, you know, keeping his shoulder square, not leading with his helmet, taking his head off center line, leading with his shoulder, wrapping up and just driving him into the ground. All right, so this play right here was from Midland, and it's so crazy because as I'm watching film and breaking down film of Jayden, they play Midland tomorrow on a Thursday, so that's kind of ironic right here. But once again, man, he just showcases his good ball skills. So it looks like they're running the well, I don't know. This might have been a two-man coverage right here. I think they might have had 2 deep guys opposed to him just being typically the only deep defender. I think they actually had two guys deep. So once again, man, he just does a good job at just being able to just read the quarterback's eyes and just, you know, anticipate exactly what it is that the quarterback is trying to do. Quarterback delivers a dart to the receiver. This was actually supposed to be a completion right there, honestly. Receiver just, you know, wasn't able to come up with it. He missed the catch and just popped that thing up in the air. And Jayden was just able to secure that interception, kind of a bobble interception. interception with one hand. And like I said, man, once again, that's one of the things that, I do see that he possesses. And that's something that, you have to have, I feel like, as a safety, because the name of the game, especially from a defensive standpoint, is to take the ball away from the offense. That's one thing that all great defenses have in common, being able to just dictate what the offense does and being able to take possessions from the offense. So in order to do that, you have to be good within your eye discipline, and then you also have to be good with your ball skills to come up with those interceptions, whether it's those 50-50 balls they're throwing up or whether it's just tip passes. But being able to have an understanding of what's going on within the game, it always keeps you in position to be able to make plays on the ball, right? So just him being in the right position and the receiver missing that catch and tipping it up to him. So if he was out of position, he would have never got that interception, but he was in a position that he was supposed to be in, and he was able to come up with the mishap from the offense. So I love to see plays like this. We've seen a lot of his plays that he's made being in pass coverage, but we love to see plays from a safety whenever they're able to come downhill and make those tackles. So right here, it looks like this was from a playoff game against Southside. Obviously, Southside was a very run-heavy team, so you pretty much kind of knew exactly what it is that they were going to do. They kind of were a one-dimensional team, meaning that all they really could do is run. If they were throwing the ball, it was out of characteristic of them, and they was not necessarily doing it from something that they wanted to do. They was doing it out of necessity just because they kept finding themselves behind the sticks on, those gotta have it situations. So right here, he just does a good job of just reading the running back, being able to close in. So it looks like they're running a too high, and it might have just kind of been a man coverage, honestly, just looking at the structure of it and seeing that you had so many guys crowded around the line of scrimmage to where if it was a pass play, it might have just kind of been like an all-out blitz, and it would have left everybody else in pass coverage and one-on-ones. But he just does a good job at reading it, seeing it, and reacting to it, and just being able to come downhill and make a tackle on a running back. So right here on this play, this is another one of those kind of teacher moments where if you look at the offensive line, so you could tell that this was a designed quarterback run, because if it wasn't, then if it was the quarterback running out of a pass play, then the offensive lineman would have dropped back. But you see that they move forward as if they're blocking in a run play. So that's a indication that this is an actual designed quarterback run. So I'm not quite sure if he actually was able to notice that, if he was reading that offensive line or a specific offensive lineman and seeing that they were pushing forward, and it was like, okay, this is a design quarterback run or a design run on this play. But he does a good job at recognizing it. The quarterback is coming up. Quarterback is a pretty shifty guy. He was kind of giving them some fits all game long. So this is an impressive tackle for him to be able to kind of make an open space. And once again, it's kind of to piggyback off what I was talking about in the previous clip where he made that tackle on the running back, is that obviously, the name of a defense is you want your defense to swarm to the ball, right? That way, if a guy misses a tackle, you got guys on the back end to clean it up. But we know in the game of football, there are going to be instances where you have to be able to make those one-on-one tackles in space. And right here, he does a good job at doing that on a very shifty quarterback. So, he kind of just looks like he's tracking the inside hip. And if you're tracking the nearest hip, then it's going to be hard for him to really be able to deceive you with any moves. So he just does a good job at tracking the inside hip, being able to come downhill, staying controlled and not overrunning the situation, and just being able to make a tackle in open space on the quarterback. So right here on this play, if you're familiar with Louisiana high school football and you're familiar with Acadiana football, you know that Acadiana they run that triple option veer type of offense. So it's a very, 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 very run heavy offense, right? So a part of that is being subject as terms of a defense, because you're strategically game planning to stop the run. Right, stopping the run comes first when you're playing an offense like this, that sometimes you can be overly aggressive with it and kind of get caught like what they did right here. So they just run a play action pass, and you see that the linebacker wished to do him. Defensive end nudged him before he went into his route and before he went to try to go fit the run. But the linebacker kind of just crept up and was, like I said, playing the run and kind of just being downhill players, which is something that they're good at. Ruston linebackers I'm speaking of. So it kind of just leaves him running down the seam freely. Now, granted, he showcases the true saying of the safeties being the last line of defense, because he just once again reads the quarterback's eyes. So like I say, man, one of the things that stands out from him is his ball skills for 1, 2, but then the eye discipline just to be able to read the quarterback's eyes. Obviously, you see that, and initially he was playing the run. Obviously, he wasn't overly aggressively flowing downhill to take himself out of position, because obviously putting that on tape, teams can exploit that if you're overly aggressive to stop the run. But he was patient enough to kind of just play the run, put himself in position position to be able to play the run and just track the quarterback's eyes. So once he realized that it was a pass play, he just read the quarterback's eyes and was able to get to the ball carrier. Now, granted, I wouldn't say that this was a touchdown saving tackle because I do believe he would have been caught eventually, but I think that he just does a good job at minimizing the gain on this play. So this was a play from the state championship game. You see that they're lined up in a 2-high safety shell. So the Central offense has 3 receivers on one side. They're lined up in a trip. So more times than not, when you see that, you see the offense lined up with trips, they're probably trying to run some type of little wide receiver screen, or maybe just trying to run some slants and drag routes or out routes or whatever the case may be to try to create those natural and pick rub routes. But right here, they just try to run a wide receiver screen. So it's similar to the exact play he made in the Destrehan game when he was able to hit Phillip Wright. Right here, he does a good job at once again realizing exactly what it is the offense was trying to do, and he was able to just be able to play downhill. Once again, one of the things I would say too that I've noticed about him, that he is a pretty good form tackler. More times than not, whenever he's tackling, he doesn't just throw his shoulder into you just to try to knock you down. He does a good job at being able to come down, break down, sink his hips, square his shoulders up, take his head off the center line, wrap you up and drive you into the ground, similar to what he did in the Destrehan game against Phillip Wright. And he also does that again right here. Just was able to get down, wrap him up, and be able to drive him down to the ground for a minimum gain, if a gain at all. So right here, this is another play from the playoff game against Southside. So you remember on the earlier clip against Southside, how I was talking about the type of offense that Southside have. They have a very run-heavy offense. If they're throwing the ball, that's kind of uncharacteristic of them. And you see that right here. So, you see that they're running. It looks like they probably were in a 2-high shell. Let me take another look at that again. Looks like they were probably, honestly, it really looks like they probably were in cover 0 again, meaning that it was man all across the board. The pressure kind of was getting to the quarterback. So, he does what most typical quarterbacks would do in that situation, is kind of panic and just say, man, hey, I got to get this ball out of my hands pretty quickly. So he just kind of throws up a duck. But once again, Jayden does a good job at being able to track the ball. And if you notice on a lot of his interceptions, these interceptions were, plays that, obviously there wasn't perfect throws, but it wasn't like it was interceptions thrown straight to him. He kind of had to be able to track the ball in the air to be able to put himself in position to be able to make the interception. And that's exactly what he does right here once again against Southside. And then also he contributes to what we call hidden yardage, and that's yards gained after a kick return, a punt return, a fumble, recovery, or interception. So he does a good job at being able to eat up some hidden yardage opportunities with some yards returned after the catch, to be able to put his offense in prime real estate to be able to make their drive a little less stress free, because they're already in good field position, and put more stress on the defense because they're in good field position. So this was another play from the state championship game right here. So I seen a penalty was thrown, and I'm not quite sure exactly why it was thrown. I'm not quite sure if it was on this play, because it looks like that was perfect coverage to me. You see that they were lined up in a single high formation once again, and they kind of just run a drag route from the slot. He does a good job initially at just being able to stay square and kind of just mirroring the quarterback's eyes, and kind of once he realized exactly where the quarterback was going with the ball. Now, granted, the quarterback did have some extended time because the pass protection didn't really get there, so he had time to be able to kind of just step up in the pocket and deliver this throw right here. So he does a good job at, once again, like I said, man, just being able to be disciplined within his eyes, watching the quarterback's eyes, and being able to track the receiver. And to me, this was played as perfect as it can be played. I mean, he didn't get to him too early, and he didn't hook him. He was able to get to him and be able to come up with the pass deflection. So that was just good coverage. So once again, this was a little brother, big brother duo. So you see that they sent Jayden Anding he was the outside corner. They sent him on a corner blitz. He's currently at LSU right now, by the way, too. So they sent him on a corner blitz, and it's like they replaced him with Jayden Anding stand over the top, to where he ended up being matched up on in man-to-man coverage. The quarterback did a good job at being able to recognize the blitzing corner and being able to just get the ball out of his hands quickly to where that defender was blitzing from. But Jayden just does a good job at, once again, man, recognizing and being able to drive downhill and make an open tackle once again in space. And like I said, obviously you had guys, had he missed that tackle that was on the back end to clean it up. But like I was saying early on too, at some point throughout the game, you're going to have to be able to make those one-on-one tackles in open space. And I think that that's a very centerpiece, especially if you're a safety, because you are the last line of defense in a lot of situations. So if you aren't able to make those open tackles in space more times than not, man, that's going to result in very big plays downfield, whether that's a running back coming up the middle that's able to get to the second level, or whether that's you being matched up in a one-on-one situation like this and you missed that tackle. Now he got an opportunity to be able to to run after the catch. But like I say, man, he was only a sophomore in this film right here. So right now he's undergoing his junior year, obviously. He's been playing some good football to start the year off. So, like I said, man, one of the things that stands out to me for one is his ball skills. He does have phenomenal ball skills. Like I was saying, if you look at a lot of those interceptions he was getting, the quarterback kind of was just lobbing the ball up there, but he was able to track the ball. It's not like it was coming directly to him. He was able to track the ball and readjust and be able to come downhill and make the catch. And a lot of those interceptions too, you've seen him taking over as a receiver and just being able to go up and high point it and attack the ball at his highest point. Like I said, also, I love his form tackling. He does have pretty good form tackling more times than not. When you see him hitting, it's not him just throwing his body into a guy and relying on strength. It's him relying on technique and fundamentals. And those are the things those are the things that make a career. Like, obviously, you like to see the safety, the guys that just deliver those crushing blows, but they don't wrap up. They just knock you down, right? But this type of form tackling, for one, is much safer, and it carves out a more long career because this is just pretty much sticking to the fundamentals, man. Just getting downhill, lowering your hips, driving through your legs, wrapping up, taking your head off the center line, and just straight fundamental tackling, man. So, I think that this kid has a bright future considering, he's been a varsity starter since his sophomore year. He had a, darn good sophomore campaign. So now he's returning back this year, much more experienced, and I'm pretty sure much more skilled in a lot of ways. So, I'm just interested to see his development moving forward. But, man, if you guys did enjoy this video, do me a big favor, man, smash that thumbs up button. Also, if you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe. And when you subscribe, make sure that you got that notification bell turned on. That way you'll be notified every time I upload. And I'll see y'all in the next video.